Here's the deal. When I think about Atlanta, I'm going to roll with T.I. here. Remember when T.I. came on the show a few months ago and he basically said he was done with Matt Ryan? I kind of agree with him. Now, Matt Ryan can ball. I mean, look at his numbers from last year, right? He completed 65% of his passes. He threw for over 4,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Booger, you know what really hits me about Matt Ryan? I know they've had a slew of injuries, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, which is not his fault. But I haven't gotten over that Super Bowl loss. I haven't gotten over you having a 25-point lead and blowing it. I haven't gotten over the experience that you have and the cachet that you had to Audible and not follow Kyle Shanahan's game plan of throwing the damn football instead of running and chewing out the clock when you got a 25-point lead. I haven't forgotten all of that. But here's the other thing. Not only do you have Julio Jones, and we all know how great he is, I got news for you. Calvin Ridley ain't shabby. And even though Mohamed Sanu ain't there any longer, he wasn't shabby either. Now, granted, Pitts, the tight end, we're saying that we ain't seen anybody like him. I got that. I really, really do. But don't you think we've seen enough from Matt Ryan where we need to at least plan for within the next 2 years for this guy to be gone? I think so. I think you got to think about moving in that direction. They lucked up when Michael Vick, wasn't responsible enough at the time to handle, admittedly, so I'm not knocking him because I'm very proud of how he's turned his life around and what he's become, and he does a great job on TV and all of that. But we all know how irresponsible he was when he was the star in Atlanta, and they lucked up being in a position to have Matt Ryan. Well, now, you fast forward all of these years later, they're lucky to be in a position again where they can end up grabbing somebody like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, dare I say. It's something they need to consider. I really believe that.
Well, I would say this. Matt Ryan is a very good quarterback. I never thought he was a great quarterback, but he was good enough, Stephen A., that you have a problem with him collapsing with that big lead. He's good enough to have a big lead late in the Super Bowl. That's pretty good. And he's still a very good quarterback. Again, maybe not great, but very good enough to win a Super Bowl with. But the reason they're selecting so high is because they didn't win a lot. And the reason didn't win a lot, I don't think, is Matt Ryan. I think there are too many holes. Football is a game where there's so much to address. They got to address the offensive line. They got to address the secondary. There's a lot of stuff to address. So this pick is the most interesting to me among the teams with the top picks in the draft because they could go so many different ways. You could always take Kyle Pitts because that's the best available player. Don't draft for need if an obvious best player is there. I would understand that. Or you could draft an offensive lineman, best available offensive lineman. Or you can go different ways. I would say take Trey Lance. Assuming, and it looks like Mac Jones will go to the Niners, but let's assume that that Justin Fields is guy. I mean, if I were the Niners, I'd take Justin Fields. Trey Lance, to me, is a guy with the lowest floor and the highest ceiling of all these quarterbacks, arguably the highest ceiling. But because of his limited experience, it may take some time. Well, that's perfect, because in Atlanta, you have some time. It's not like if you take Kyle Pitts or Sewell or whoever it is, one top player, now you plug them in, and boom, the Falcons are ready to win. They got a couple of drafts to go. And Matt Ryan's contract is such now that while he's still effective, you might as well play him because you're going to have to pay him. And if you try to trade him in the next 2 years, it's an enormous cap hit. So you're not going to do that. It's the perfect time, when you may not draft this high in the foreseeable future, to grab a quarterback. And the reason Trey Lance, to me, is the right guy is his enormous upside, but the time it could take for him to develop. It kind of lines up perfectly. With so many holes to fill, my point is you're not going to do it all in one draft. You might as well grab a guy if they believe that he can be the franchise quarterback to follow Matt Ryan a couple of years down the road.
So when do you stick with the aging veteran and build around him? When do you do what Tampa has done and take a 43-year-old Tom Brady and build around him? When do you do what New Orleans did with Drew Brees and build around him? You do it when your team is ready to win. So now let's look at the Atlanta Falcons. Let's say we kept Matt Ryan and we took Kyle Pitts at the 4th pick and we took this offense to another level. Is this team ready to win? No, because their defense is terrible. Their defense was one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL last year. Even when Raheem Morris took over and they got a little better, they were still bad. So there is no way you can say take Kyle Pitts, even though Kyle Pitts is one of one. He is a unicorn. He is a once-in-a-generation tight end that we may not see for another 5 to 10 years. A guy that is 6'6", 250, and can run 4.4 in the 40. They don't make those. He'll come into the NFL and be a top 5 tight end when he gets in, but he doesn't make your team better. So if you're Arthur Smith and you're Terry Fontenot, the GM, and you're the Atlanta Falcons, you have to ask yourself, and you have to be honest. See, sometimes this is tough for us to do as men. Look in the mirror and be honest with ourselves. We want to pacify others and say, yeah, we're ready to win right now. We're going to win the Super Bowl. They aren't close to winning the Super Bowl in Atlanta. So they have to say, let's take a step back. Let's fix the other parts of our team. Let's take the quarterback. Let's take Matt Ryan and get something for him. We can get something for him, whether it's a 3 or 4, whatever the draft capital we can get for him, because in a quarterback-starved age as we are in, teams will give up anything. Somebody traded for Carson Wentz, and we saw how bad he's played. So they will trade for any quarterback that can walk in a straight line and throw the football. So you get something for Matt Ryan, and you move forward with Trey Lance, you rebuild. And now if you're Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, you have an opportunity to build with your plan, with your quarterback, and you fix your defense. Because holistically, even though one part of your team is ready to win, if everybody's not ready to win, then you're wasting time and spinning your wheels.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.